Psychoanalysis concepts, psychoanalysis technique, concepts and issues, part 3. In this 5-part series of concepts and issues falling in the area of technique in psychoanalysis, this is the 3rd session, and we'll take a look at 10 more concepts and issues in this session, as in every session. So let us take a look at concepts and issues number 31, 21 to 30. Let's look at how these concepts and issues work out as a part of technique. Let's discuss them one by one. First on our list is knowledge. Point of discussion here is not that whether we should have knowledge or not have knowledge. That's a given. We should have knowledge. We must have knowledge. That's not the point. The point here is, should we give knowledge to the client? Because that is like getting in a teaching mode. And that is not what Freud anticipated when he created this 4th archetypal relationship of the therapist and the client. Freud was very clear that the 3 typal relationships we have, parent-child, sibling, and teacher-student, they are not enough or not congruent to the work of therapy, and therefore a 4th type of relationship has to be created between the therapist and the client. And therefore this whole construction of FREUD, which is an artificial construct but a productive construct. So the point here is, should we then get into a teacher-student mode? And obviously the answer is, if you're talking of it for a long period of time, then no. Therapy is not a coaching class or a teaching class. It's something else. So we can't be teaching in therapy. But does that mean we should go to the other extreme and not use knowledge as a tool? That's quite a different question. And here we can take a look at some people who have used knowledge as a tool. Not that you start teaching something, but you use it in a very sophisticated, subtle, and a sharp and a very crisp and short way. Can we have an example? Yes. Let us say in a very traditional setup like that of India, you want to break open a discussion in the Oedipal entanglement of the client. One way, not the only way, can be and this is the way the father of Indian psychoanalysis, Virendra Shekhar, goes. He also used to use this way for some of his clients. The way is, you can refer to the client a couple of pages and request the client to go through it before the next session. So this is a kind of a self-work which is so popular in CBT, but not so much in psychoanalysis. When the client goes through, 2 things happen. One, it becomes easy for the client to accept the unacceptable, because he no longer condemns himself as being the only condemned one with this kind of ideas and thoughts, but he feels it's human to have these ideas. Second, he belongs to a community now. He's no longer a single sick person. And both these things rehabilitate him and quicken up the pace of therapy and bring to the fore something which could have come to the fore after a very long time or never at all. So this can be one use of this. Second, it can also give extra credibility to what the therapist is saying. So when the therapist says something but does not go in, often when the person encounters it as a book or as a video, the person starts respecting the same thing. Now that has other aspects also as to why the credibility of the therapist is not so high, separate question of supervision altogether. But for our limited discussion, the use of knowledge can be a very powerful tool. In personality disorders, I have created a valley junction model of personality disorders, and I use knowledge where I take half of a session to explain to the client what it is all about, and also give to the client something to read. And after that, in the next session, I again come back to the original classical stance, and that has helped me a great deal. Second point for today is self-work. Very well leveraged in CBT, in psychodrama, in many other areas, but not so much in psychoanalytic psychotherapy. Primarily because the way psychoanalytic psychotherapy grew, in its founding years, essentially it was 5 days a week. So there was no question of self-work because there was no gap. It was 5 days a week. It's only now that because of pressure of time and too much of traffic, people find it difficult to come 5 days. They find it difficult even to come 3 days. And so either they ask for a online session or not more than twice a week. And that has created now this scope for using this technique of self-work in psychoanalytic psychotherapy also. And there are plenty of things to be leveraged, from creating art to responding to art to completing the story to consolidating in behavior what one has done in theory. Self-work can be very profitably leveraged for psychoanalysis. Not done till now, but easily can be done. Holistic healing is yet another issue, very important. The professional community is still not clear about it, still hesitant about it, waiting for empirical results, but clients have gone forward, and most cases, even without the therapist knowing about it, the client already is taking benefit of holistic healing. So the person who is in therapy also goes for Reiki, for pranic healing, for yoga, for Tai Chi, for Tibetan medicine and whatnot. So clients have moved ahead of the community, the professional community, and as more empirical results come and support holistic healing, very soon we should have holistic healing as a very integral part of our conventional practice. And holistic healing can also, if the client learns it, you can also couple it up with self-work. Meeting the person outside of therapy. That is a strict no. If it cannot be avoided because the place is very small or situation is such that you are teaching it and the client also is a student who wants to learn it, or the student has become a client later on, or the person has a problem which only you can solve, and that creates a dual relationship aspect to it, you may have no choice. But strictly speaking, dual relationship should be avoided. At least dual relationship involving cash, benefit in kind, or a personal relationship, these three have to be strictly no. Other forms of dual relationships of a student and a teacher, or uh, being member of the same club or attending the same conference, they may not be avoidable in a small place. But apart from this very entangled and self-interest involving relationship outside of therapy is treatment. The second aspect is doing therapy outside of therapy. Clients always want us to keep doing therapy 24/7. And we have to put a stop to it, that we don't do sessions without a formal session. So the clients will call you, they will write on WhatsApp and try to get you into the therapy mode so that you keep doing therapy 24/7. And we have to structure it, stop it there, and bring everything only in the therapy. Stention is a technique used by Lacanians, where in Lacanian psychoanalysis you don't have a session of a fixed duration. Like in most classical psychoanalysis, except for the Lacanian school, the duration of the session is fixed, either 45 minutes or 1 hour. In ISTD, it can be 1.5 hours, 3 hours, but whatever it is, it's fixed. In Lacanian psychoanalysis, the session varies. The therapist can put an end to the session anytime he feels. And this is called stention. I'm not sure if they write it STENTION or SION, whatever that be. But stention is an idea where the therapist cuts the session wherever he feels like. And this creates two things. One, the patient does not waste his time because he realizes if he starts wasting the time in talking of irrelevant things or siding too much with the resistance, the therapist will cut the session, charging him for the full session. So the patient gets more on the side of the therapist rather than resistance. And second, wherever the session ends, generally people keep thinking after the session for quite some hours about how the session ended. And therefore, when you end the session at a very poignant and a very resourceful point, the person keeps thinking about it, elaborating about it, going deeper about it, and derives quite some profit by reflection upon the point at which the session ended. Therefore, that ending of the session, the termination of the session, is used as an act of interpretation, the fallout of which endures for a long period of time after the session is over, and this is called stention. Mirroring. The classical mirroring is used as an act of interpretation or as an act of challenge. What is mirroring? The patient says, you know what, I don't want to get well. And the therapist says, we make a note of the point that you really don't want to get well. Is it correct? We just make a note of it. Now this is, you mirror back to the person the irrationality of the person without any criticism, without any condemnation, without any tone of domination or disapproval. You just mirror back to the person his irrationality, and that's an act of interpretation. At times it also can be an act of challenge. This is the classical mirroring. And then you have the cohesion mirroring. The cohesion mirroring has 5 elements to it. It is, but before I come to the 5 elements, let me just talk about the difference between the classical mirroring and the cohesion mirroring. In cohesion mirroring, there is no interpretation, there is no challenge, no confrontation. It's quite different from classical mirroring. Cohesion mirroring is based upon 5 A's: acknowledgement, attention, affection, acceptance, affection, and admiration. Attention, acknowledgement, attention, acceptance, affection, admiration. The 5 A's. And Kohut says if in early childhood these 5 A's were not given adequately to us in quantity and quality, there is a mirroring failure that happens. And this mirroring failure is one of the very important reasons for not being able to create a healthy self and end up creating an unhealthy self, which can be a narcissistic self, a borderline self, or a psychotic self. And therefore, patients with a mirroring failure will look forward to mirroring from the therapist. This mirroring, if successfully done, will restart the arrested process of development. And the person will move automatically from an unhealthy self position to a healthy self position. And therefore, the acknowledgement, giving of attention, acceptance, affection, and admiration, all of them are necessary, which Kohut says happens by abstaining from interpretation in the early part of therapy and only providing support and holding, abstaining from interpretation, unlike the classical psychoanalysis. And then allow by act of omission the patient to live out his grandiosity and also to live out his self-object experiences with the therapist. Once successfully done, the arrested process of development restarts and the patient slowly, after a spurt in irrationality, automatically slowly moves towards a position of a healthy self. Split. Split is extreme thinking, all black and all white. Patient says, you are all good and I am all bad. It's a split. Or he is all powerful and I have no power in me. It's a split. And this happens all the time. What we do is we show to the patient 2 things that he has spoken which are contradictory on any issue, and we ask him to put them together. That if he takes this opinion about X and this opinion about X and puts them together, what is the net result opinion towards X? This is called as closing the split and moving to a depressive position. If the split is very deep, just this cognitive bringing together is not enough to bridge the split. Because often the split may be a result of object loss, and unless a good, reliable, stable object is internalized, the split can't close no matter how many times you do the cognitive bridging. There is also another important element related to the split. There is a split about the understanding of the split. Many Kleinians believe, and most others also believe, that the split position is an all bad position and the depressive position is the all good position. This is a split related to the split. The truth is, in the split position, there are more difficult things and a few good things, but the good things are extremely good. In depressive position, there are more good things, few difficult things, but the good things are moderately good things. It's like investing in fixed deposit scheme and investing in a stock market. The depressive position is the fixed investment scheme and the split position is a stock market. However, it is correct that in most pathologies where the split is the cause of the pathology, there is no option but to bridge the split. But that does not go on to say that there is nothing productive, nothing creative coming out of the split. The extremely good experiences, extremely creative experiences in the area of art, in the area of science, in the area of spirituality, they happen in the split position. So we cannot say the split is all bad and the depressive position is all good. We can only say when it comes to healing of the pathology, the depressive position is more conducive to healing of pathology than the split position, and the split has to be breached to heal the pathology. But after the split is breached in healing of the pathology, we may have to still go to the split position, which is no longer a pathological split position, but a productive split position. So just as we have moved from narcissism being only a pathology to also being a healthy position and discovering something called healthy narcissism by Cohout, similarly, there is also an element of healthy split. But for general purposes, for healing, split has to be closed and we have to move to a depressive position. After moving to the depressive position, we have to move to the next stage, to a healthy split, where the highest of experiences in the area of art, science, and spirituality can be had. Envy. Envy is something like pure evil, one of the most difficult things to justify. Envy is one of the most difficult things to deal with and one of the most deeply repressed things. Envy is not only destructive, but it can also result in psychosis, as Beyond points out that excessive envy towards goodness outside of us can become so unbearable that the aggressive attacks happen on the thinking process to break its chain, what Beyond calls attacks on linking, and thereby the cognitive thought problems they start. Because the apparatus of thinking is attacked so that it no longer brings in the messages of something good outside of us, which is unbearable given the envy. The envy is something where we cannot stand anything good outside of us, and if there is, we want to destroy it out of our rage. But if you work enough on envy outside of you, we realize that after that part is cleared up, we see envy attacking good parts even of ourselves. And that is where envy is different from narcissism. Many people feel envy is just an output, one of the outcomes of narcissism. It is not so. The two may be together, but envy is not a derivative or not an entity that is within the arcade of narcissism. Because envy attacks even the goodness in us if we have worked through attack of envy on goodness outside of us. It does not end there also. If we work on envy, which is attacking goodness in us, then a stage comes where we can experience envy as a pure affect, which has not yet found its object. And that itself is very difficult, terrifying. This is a point on which many people don't agree with me, that we can experience pure affect, but I am sure we can do it because I have done it. It has happened to me. So we can experience pure affect. We can also experience a state of no thought. That also is an experience I have had, quite contrary to the mainstream position. And the sublimated form of envy is gratitude, and the intention of nature putting envy in us is to provide us with inspiration and healthy competition. Because we should remember that all the problems that we list out essentially have survived the test of selection in evolution. So everything has something to contribute. Everything has a purpose, no matter how pathological it may look at the first sight. Greed. Greed is to have everything good anywhere and own it, possess it, have it in one's custody. And this in early childhood refers to the greed of the child to rob the good breast of all its goodness and hoard all that goodness in oneself. Greed can also result in the person in adult life not being able to make decisions. One is caught up in an approach conflict. It's like I want milk and I want curd. The reality is I can have only one of them. They are mutually exclusive, but I want both of them. And that creates an impossibility. That we want two mutually exclusive things at once. And many people are stuck in such impossibilities and they cannot move out of it because they want two mutually exclusive possibilities together at the same time. And in the nature of things, it cannot happen. So the sublimated form of greed is generosity. And in therapy, we have to move from split to the depressive position, from envy to gratitude, from greed to generosity. In this session, it should be sufficient. We will take up 10 more concepts and issues in the next session. Thank you.